Oh man. I think the audio was off for that. That was awful. Well, nothing exciting was really happening there. Anyway, apologies for 2 minutes of that. There was totally some stuff there, but it was the mic bar is going, but it wasn't routed to the correct output. That's unfortunate. All right, let's say all of that stuff again. Boy, this live streaming thing is hard. Hello, everybody. OdatNurd here, and we are doing some Monday night live streaming instead of Sunday night live streaming. And the stream was supposed to happen yesterday, but life conspires in bizarre and unfortunate ways. I was stuck creating some training documentation, not for anything Sublime Text related, unfortunately, but for something that was supposed to be happening today, and several of the key players called in sick and didn't actually come to work today, so I could have done it tonight instead of yesterday and have done the stream the way I normally would have. In any case, we got the Monday blahs. Let's try to get over it, and as announced previously, we are going to be working on OverrideAudit, my package for Sublime Text. It's been a couple of years since I've done anything on it. I do have some things that I'd like to do, but life conspired. I got stalled out because I was waiting for an official version of 3.0 to come out. As we can see here, I have some stuff in here. I wanted to change the minimum required version of Sublime that was needed. So there's various code that's in this package that doesn't need to, well, it needs to be here because we're targeting Sublime build 3092, but I'd rather it not be there because it makes everything cleaner. And I think I covered this before, but an example of that is when you go down to Preferences, Settings, and see OverrideAudit, and there's just one thing here. This is how it normally works for newer packages. Older packages would do it this way. You'd see a settings default and a settings user, whereas the newer fashion for just settings opens a whole new window. I have a set of commands that I created in OverrideAudit to be able to do this so that it works for older versions and newer versions and falls back as appropriate, so everything looks version appropriate for whoever is using the thing. I'd really rather not do that. So there are some changes like that I want to do. The other thing is that this code currently is excuse me, there was a little something going on there. This code is currently the prototype for version 2 It's what I call the BSR version, which stands for Big Scary Refactor, because a lot of this code, all of these classes, oh, not that one, all the code in here for the source to the package for all of the commands in the package and all of this other stuff. This is that settings proxy class that I was just talking about that knows whether it should run the appropriate commands or not. All this stuff used to be just in a couple of monolithic files in version 1, and the big scary refactor bumped all of this stuff out into a quote unquote better package layout. And I think so. I've been running this for the better part of a year and a half, but as I said, I was waiting for a newer version of Sublime to come out so that I could up the minimum version number, and then as soon as that happened, immediately a devlaw version came out with even more features for input in the command palette, and I thought I might want to get that in as well, and then life conspired. So part of the things that we need to do is remember how this code all works, and another thing that we need to do is we need to create at least one more release, if not two, in the OverrideAudit version 1 series. So that because as we just saw in this channel entry thing here, there's this UDM or text on the bottom. I'm not sure how much of that actually applies now because things have changed. And when you create a release, you use a tagged release type thing to specify what versions of Sublime are required. Right now, it's greater than or equal to 3092, just like that. So any version of Sublime that at least supports Sublime syntax files, because I absolutely refuse to use XML unless my life depends on it, and my life doesn't depend on it in this package. So in order to be able to bump this version up, a good way to do that is to create a new version, and then we can do something like this, which adds out extra things to say, generally speaking, everybody can use that, but if a release is tagged with something special, then use this one instead. And then when we make that new release, or the final release in the 1.0 series or whatever, we can do a double tag on it, and then there's one last version for people that are using really, really old versions of Sublime, so we don't just leave them behind. I sometimes use old builds, so I want the package to work there, but we also want to constrain, because trying to keep things backward compatible for things is a pain in the butt. So my idea is a few cosmetic type changes which should hopefully make things better. Oh, hang on, my boogie board sync is acting up a little over here. There we go. And also, I want to finish that external diff functionality. But in order to do that, we need to switch this version of the code from this version 2.0 type version to the older version of the code. And that ought to be fun because I don't really remember how that is supposed to work. But like I said, it's been a while since I looked at this stuff. This is why I prolifically comment things, by the way. So I'm gonna quit Sublime and go here. And now I can't remember. What code am I even looking at here? Oh, yeah. I updated my webpage, OdatNurd.net, to add a new coding musician, Savant. There's even a link to him. If I clicked this, you could totally see that link right there. I don't really know how well that actually works for anybody. As his official webpage, it has a link that takes you to Spotify so you can listen to his playlist, and it's stuff that he likes and stuff that he wrote. As far as I understand, I think I don't have a Spotify account, and I did not want to sign up for one. But look up Savant, the band, or search for Alexander Winter Savant to get tons of cool coding type music. I like it personally because I like that style of music. It's a little bit 8-bit, a little bit EDM, plus there's no lyrics. I find music with lyrics hard to code to because I want to sing along instead of coding along. And let's see, we want to open the one here. Oh, I don't have a version of this in the... I guess for this part it doesn't matter. I have one unstaged file, do I? That untracked file with the channel entry. Yeah, okay, that is less interesting. Now I think version 1.1.1 is the legacy version of the code. It's also the stable released version of the code. So if I'm remembering correctly, see, I think the last release was 2017. It has been a couple of years. It's not because the code has been neglected. If there were any bugs in it, I would have fixed them. It's just for a package that needs to examine your overrides, very little has changed in that regard. So except for doing stuff we're doing now, cosmetic things, and adding all new features, the old version works just fine. My branching mechanism here, if I remember correctly, I'm tagging releases clearly because um, package control requires that to be the case. The master branch is always the one that's currently being worked on. And the stable branch represents the currently released version of the code, whatever that may be, which is currently 1.1.1. And legacy is a branch that I created to track the legacy version of the code, which will eventually be the last of the 1 point whatever series of releases before we abandon it in favor of the BSR. And I'm saying this out loud, even though it's probably obvious, because the training materials I worked on last night were for teaching my teammates at work how to use Git Flow, and we're using a completely different paradigm there where develop is stuff going to release and master is stuff that's only been released, and all of that business. And I've got that in my head now. I have to remember, as a single developer working on a not very busy project, that part's not strictly necessary. So I guess the first thing to do would be to check out, say, legacy. Because if stable is the version that's currently released and master is the version that's the new development version, then legacy, that's the version that I should be fiddling with. And look at all the changes that went away. That is a very scary BSR indeed. And something else that I noted in here, that I know I did, at least I think I did it after this, but we'll see. What's this one? That might be something that would be fun to backport over to this particular version of the code. I believe I realized that was a problem when I was working on HyperHelp way back when. But that is not the number 24. Look at cool messages like swabble name around. No, there was a bug in save on diff, unless that already appears in the changelog for something. Let's go ahead and fire up the editor now that we have that. Now we can see how much flatter this whole thing is. There's still that messages folder. There's still that syntaxes folder. I should really have a resources folder and shuffle all those other files in there to make that cleaner, but that's not going to happen in version 1. That's going to happen in, version 2. And there's the various library things. What's in here? Oh, that thing. Okay, and then we can see there's the settings proxy and an OverrideAudit.py. So that thing that is now a whole bunch of files, it used to be one really, really long file. 1,200 lines. That's, I guess, not too bad because lots of comments or comments-ish. Nevertheless, one of the main reasons why the BSR happened is because of this. There are multiple commands creating reports, diffing, and blah, blah, blah. But there's one context menu for override audit stuff. I'm not even sure that that's actually, yeah. The plugins in that directory are currently broken because they assume the other version of the code. I should fix that as well. There is, in fact, I think, a bug right here, or no? Oh, hey, maybe this bug may not actually need fixing, if you will. I'm just going to very quickly, just to say with one of the features that I've been long thinking was something that I could port over from version 2 back to version 1 to give me a reason to release it is this thing here. If you're going to diff, if the context command is going to diff and override, and the save on diff setting is turned on and the file is dirty, then it saves the file before it runs the diff, which allows you to edit the file and then swap back and forth to see what the diff looks like now without having to save first, which seemed like a nice thing. Now, here, this is a text command, which is what we want. But again, what I will maybe just do is very quickly check out master and come back into here. And if we looked at the actual source to this thing, we know that was a command, and it was probably diff override. Huh. Let's check to see where this appears, because there was a very definite bug in this particular code. I'll turn off regex so that that works. Only the one, huh? Maybe I actually fixed this and I don't even remember. Fix bug in save on diff where the buffer might visually appear unsaved in some circumstances, even though the file was actually saved. Yeah, see, that's the. I may be remembering this incorrectly, but the gist of the problem is that. Oh, no, it was a text command. That's right. Okay, I remember now. Oh, good gravy. This is already a scintillating stream. Again, come to OdatNurd for all of your rambling at code things. Here is the problem as it exists in the other version, but not in this version. And this is the part where it may be tricky to fix. We'll just verify that this is actually the case. This is a text command, and the idea here is that if the save on diff setting is set, and this is a diff, or the context is a diff and all of this stuff. Context is diff is not none, and not context is diff. See, well, yeah. Oh, right, the information on what this actual view is. Then save this thing so that later on, when this is called, it can save the file before it does the diff. Now, this is the appropriate way to do it, because when you run the text command in the run method, it sets this up and starts a background thread and leaves. And this background thread, after it's collected the package list, is what actually saves the file if there is a save thing and it's dirty and it has a file name and it's actually a file that exists, which I got to make sure the other one was actually doing too. Then it runs the save. That's important because if you have the Sublime Text option trim trailing whitespace on save turned on, then it happens in response to the save command by way of an event handler. And if you call save, which is a text command, if you call this save command from within a text command, then what happens is that's modified, I should say. As soon as you run save, the Sublime knows that this buffer has been modified. When you call save, it resets that flag to say the buffer is saved and it's not dirty anymore. But as a part of that trim trailing white space on save command happens and remodifies the buffer. And even though after that happens, the file is saved and the file is marked as not being dirty, Sublime knows that it ran a text command and something inside of it caused an edit. So when it's done the command, it marks the file as dirty. And what you end up with is a view that visually looks like it's still got the dirty indicator up in the tab, even though it's actually being saved to disk properly. So here we fixed that by pulling it out into a separate thread so that it doesn't happen inside of this text command and it works as per normal. So with that in play here, I'm getting a little closer to let's check out the legacy branch and go ahead and jump back in here again. And again, if I did that, whoops, well, yeah, I guess that one will work. If save on diff and target is dirty and the file name is actually a file that exists, then run this. This part is important to make sure that it doesn't resurrect a diff after it's excuse me, after it's being deleted off of disk. If you delete it off of disk but the file's still open in Sublime, Sublime needs to tab open and marks the file as dirty, and it has a file name associated with it, so if you don't take special care, it'll save the file and resurrect it back from the dead when you swap over, and that is irritating. Now, in order to see this actually happening, let's go ahead and create a new window. And we're going to do, no, we're going to do this and look at exec.py. Now I know that this has some changes in it. I made them for November and they're still here. So if I did this, there's some white space there. Now I press the key to swap over to the diff. And it should save. Oh, actually, I suppose before I do that, I should probably, I have to do it this way, I suppose. OverrideAudit settings, and I think save on diff defaults. Oh, it defaults to false, but I have it turned on. So it's going to try to do this. There's some white space there. So when I click this, it should redact that white space, save the file, and run the diff. And because it saves the file, the tab should become not dirty, right? So let's see what happens. Well, here we can see that line isn't different. And here, the white space has indeed been redacted out, but there's definitely that bug is still there. So that's nice. At least we know that that is still the case. And I'll go ahead and save that now just to clear it up. Now, the problem kind of clears itself up if you swap back and forth between the diff a couple of times, because the second time you save, it's not going to trim trailing white space because there isn't any. Oh, look, I totally have a viewer. That hardly ever happens. Hello, Burning Neuron Interactive. I'm so used to that window not scrolling that I covered it up with my email program. Haha. Which is related to something that we could possibly cover later. Now, I'm not sure what the best way to actually solve this is here, because it kind of needs to defer until after it's done in here. So it is spawning a thread there. So that it's kind of doing what the other one was doing. So the question is, what's the good way to convey to this command that this particular view should be saved if it's actually dirty? That package loaded is in here. Then it spawns the diff there. So, can I cheat and actually look at the changes here? I would imagine I probably can. And if I looked at source and I looked at diff, boop. Oh, the blame log totally has all my initials in it. So, where did I define sview? Oh, it's totally passed to the loaded callback, which is called there, which does this. So swanky swankersons. Let's go ahead and steal code I already wrote. It's okay. I give myself permission to do that. I've got too many windows open now. So okay, that is that one and that one's that one. So this should happen in the one right before it calls, well, diff override, or in this case, thread diff override. So we could do something like, so I'm using the very latest and greatest Sublime Text dev build. So I'm getting extra diff action in the sidebar, which is sort of kind of competing with Git Gutter for the moment. I kind of like that. I've noticed some weirdness. This window right now is maximized on this screen and I can see it, but I normally run this monitor at 2560 by 1440 as a resolution, in which case it only appears when I'm full screen, but not when the window is maximized. But if I size the window just a little bit up or down or extend it onto my second desktop to the right, then it totally displays that. So there's some weird stuff going on in there. So if we go back and check it out, we did this. Well, we probably we'll leave that logic the way it was. Shoo, context diff is, okay, package loaded is its version of that. So we would do, that indent is going to kill me. We're going to do that. And, oh wait, did I do that in the wrong spot? Yeah, I did. Whoops. Let's make sure I'm not boning this up too hardcore. Instead of doing that, it should do this. Save view is none. If this is the case, then it should sview equals target, and it should context diff package override, and I would imagine I also passed the actual view. Well, I passed it after the window last time, so let's go ahead and do that here as well. Sview, oops. And that is context diff saved view. And then we just do, save view. Then we can do this part. We don't even have to worry about that stuff up there, actually. That test can happen here. So we can go ahead and, if save view is not none, there's that. And if save view is dirty, and that is going to be os.path.isFile. In this case, okay, so this new version of the code has this fancy context thing where based on a view, it determines what exactly someone's trying to do and what this buffer actually is. So we know if we're looking at an override, we know if we're looking at a diff, we know if we're looking at a report. So that creating these context sensitive commands is easier to do. In this older version of the code, we know that this is a diff because we were told we're diffing. So we don't need to necessarily, we just need to do that, would be my guess. If the save on diff setting is set, then S, the saved view is equal to the target. And, ooh, why is that unhappy? Oh, because this shouldn't be here, right? And then do the context diff using sview. And when we call context diff, that's the part. Oh, well, actually, yeah, well, we were doing it. Oh, yeah. I guess we want to do that slightly different here, don't we? We actually want this to work a little bit differently. Now, I guess in the other version of the code, this is just calling context diff, which is actually, this is still inside that same thing. So I'm glad I noticed that right away. I do, in fact, want it to be inside package loaded. So I think, want this. Let me just double check. What did this used to look like? If save on diff, blah, 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 and then run context diff. Now it just runs context diff. Context diff doesn't take sview like so. So that should be, oh, no, we took out the actual code to run the save command in favor of just calling context diff. Context diff does not take this argument, so that line is no longer changed. But here we say that stuff that we pulled out of the other one. I think now I'm sort of lost on which one is the target here. Oh, I guess it's just the current self.view here, isn't it? If I was to look at the changes, we used to call target dot, and okay, so what was target is self.view target. Okay, now if I recall correctly, the reason for that is because we want to be able to, from over here, cancel. We wanted to, from over here, be able to see override audit commands on things. I guess I would actually need an override for that, wouldn't I? Like so. You get it on the tab. This type of menu works a different way. It always runs in the wrong context, but it tells you what file group and file ID that is actually there. So we do need to maybe pass target in here. And here we can pass target so that we can say the save view is none. If we're supposed to save on diff, then sview equals target. We don't need that part. We can go ahead and load the packages. When it's done, it will, oh, I need to convey the same thing here, I guess. We only need to pass a view if we're supposed to save on diff, otherwise we don't care. And then when it's finished collecting all of the packages, which takes at least as long as this dropping down, unless you're running such a broken version of Sublime, there's no packages including OverrideAudit. Pretty sure that can't happen. When it calls package loaded, we get the thread, the window, we get the save view, we get the package name and the override. And if save view is not none and it's dirty and it's a file, then save before we run. So let's just go ahead and vet the changes up here in the diff. And I should really make sure I create a new version, a new branch here. Maybe legacy-develop so I know what we're doing there, because I don't want to change this per se. Maybe it doesn't matter because it is tagged. Yeah, I tagged version 1.1.1, and that's where the legacy branch has been sitting. So that's probably easy to remember, especially if this recording actually works and I can come back and look at it later. So Previously, if the setting for save on diff was in and the file was dirty and the file existed, it would run save and then run context diff. We know that's wrong. We saw it not working. So now it calls context diff with the target view. Now this part's redundant because it doesn't need the window. It could get target.window itself, but we can only care so much about these things. When it calls context diff, previously it didn't do anything special. Now it says the save view is none, and if the save setting on diff is turned on, it sets that here so that we know. And then it passes it to there, and here this code says if the save view is not none and the save view is dirty, and it's all that stuff we just did, only there's a little bit less of it now. We deferred the save on diff to the part before the thread runs. This should fix the problem. Now I'm just thinking, is there a reason necessarily to do this test here? If I'm going to do it this way, could I say if setting save on diff and if it's dirty, and basically have all of this code right here, but with a target? Maybe that's a nicer way to go. Let's go ahead and try this version out first. So let's see that. It's doing that an awful. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. One of the naughty aspects of working with the legacy version of OverrideAudit is that one of the things it does on plugin loaded is check to see if it needs to do any checks for overrides that might be expired, which happens when the plugin loads, which is generally when the plugin starts or when you first install it. And because all the code is in one file, every time I save it, it plugin gets loaded. So if we came back over to here, I'm going to swap to here. I'm going to do that same thing I did last time. There's a bunch of things. I'm going to swap over. Well, that didn't work at all. Oh, right, because I didn't fix that thing that I knew I needed to fix. Yeah. I shortened it up in the other version by importing os.path. Like so. But now it fits on one line, so it's probably okay. That seems to be okay. So I'm going to try that again. And as a matter of fact, just to make things a little easier on ourselves, what if we did this? And swap that over to there. And now, there we go. We jump over. The file is saved, and that part's done. Hooray! So that totally seems to work. Now, again, do we really need to do this part here? What if we just go ahead and shoot target directly through? Cut that part out. Target. Okay, so yeah. I'm thinking if I just temporarily revert this, then I can take those lines and cut them out. We need to pass the target to the window to this command, which it just gets and immediately forwards along to package loaded. So now the difference there is it gets, it gets that argument and it passes it, but it's otherwise okay. So that's good. And here we're calling that save view. We could actually do this. Save on diff and target is dirty and OS path is filed. So if I copy that and go bang, 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 and this should clearly do the same thing. Now, just to be safe, that seems to work. I'm going to quit and restart just to give everything that nice clean start. And again, this is a file in my user package that's currently broken because it assumes the code layout is slightly different when it tries to import things from Sublime. So we're going to do a little bit of that, and then we're going to go like so. And that still works. And if I actually put a character there like so, it still works and it shows up there in the diff, but that's not really what I want. So if I just did that and that, then life seems to be good. So we have actually done something. We have the basis of a version 1.1.2. Hooray! And I kind of remember how my code works. Double hooray! And I only spent a couple of minutes talking before I realized my microphone wasn't going. Hooray! And Burning Neuron Interactive is totally in the chat, or at least said something for a minute. This is a red letter day, considering that I forgot to schedule this thing. And I'm terrible at self-promotion. We're getting there. We're getting there. So, excuse me. I feel like I got a tickle in my throat, and I really want to cough. Now, I could have swore that I actually had. I must have fixed that bug while I was doing the BSR. Because I would have thought that I wouldn't have done that, and there would be a separate commit for it here. But I might have noticed it while I was porting the command and thought I broke it, and then realized what was actually going on. So maybe we are on legacy here. We could say backport the save on diff fix from v2.0.0. Okay, so and then we might say back when we were doing the BSR to split out the code nicely for version 2.0.0, we fixed a bug in the save on diff handling. Can you say search inside the commit message? I don't think you can. I seem to recall people asking if such a thing was possible. We fixed a bug in the save on diff handling, wherein if you have the trim trailing white space on save, I'm pedantic enough that I need to trim automatic white space, trim trailing white space on save. How did that not find over there? But in any case, I believe that's what I put here, trim trailing white space on save. Go me. Turned on a line has any trailing white space and the file is unsaved. The file will be saved to disk before doing the diff, but it will be left marked as dirty. The fix here is similar to the one created for version 2, but the code is a little more simplistic here. And stage the change to that. I lost my mouse and commit that up. Now, it's long been my theory that if you want your change logs to not just say miscellaneous bug fixes, probably pay more attention to what you're doing. So we're going to do that. There might be another bug here to look at. So let's go ahead and copy that, come back to this. Well, this is the one we don't really need anymore, so we'll close that for the time being. That's my preferences. We don't need that. We're on minor window overload. And then we can go to changelog.md. Oh, I should have copied more stuff. Oh, I did. Okay. And do doop. Look like so. And got to remember to remove that from the the changelog for version 2 because it's not really fixed here anymore. Fix a bug introduced in 1.1.0 while fixing number 24, which causes text in reports telling you there are no overrides to be treated as an override. That is this thing. Go out of the tree. While making this modification to ensure that overrides. Oh, I should have put that as part of that in the changelog, huh? Well, let's actually change that. So let's stage that file and amend the previous commit. So we got that going for us. There's still that thing. I just got to add that to the ignored list. Then I'd have to check the ignored file in. Yeah, we'll see how long I can go with that. So the fixes. Just to see. What's the best way? What's the best way to actually take a peek at this? If you try to create a report and there were no overrides found, it used to be square brackets and now it's angle brackets, and that was a problem, and it thought this was an override because this change that needed to be that was made in the syntax. And there we can totally see that particular thing happening. Well, the easiest way would be to actually just type the text in the buffer, but let's not go that way. Hopefully my constant muting, excuse me, to cough and clear my throat, this is not too upsetting or obnoxious or audible in the thing. This chest congestion is really hanging with me a lot longer than I would have expected. I feel good. It just sort of feels a little weird in my throat, and maybe going for long walks on rainy days while you're recovering isn't the greatest thing to do. On the other hand, perhaps there's nothing that coffee with mocha in it can't fix. Now, we could say override report only expired. Will that say anything? No, that's not going to tell us what we want. I think what we want to do is bulk diff a single package. And maybe, which one of these do I not care about is the issue. Maybe I just create a new override temporarily. That seems like an idea. So do I have any for Lua right now? No, I don't. Let's close that. Historically, I have. So let's say Lua and maybe comments.tm preferences. Oh, that file is totally empty. That seems not right. Pretty sure Lua has comments in it. How about indent? How about a build? I have a feeling there might be an issue with this latest version of VPF Lua build. There's something funny going on in Package Resource Viewer in this dev build, but it's not something that generates an error to the console, so that's kind of funny. And what do I have as a build system? Because that is irritating as all get out. Excuse me. If I was to save as this and create a folder, call it Lua. It's all lowercase, right? I assume. And then save it as Lua.sublime build in there. Now, if I do this, you can totally see that that is an override. It's a shipped file package with unpacked files. One of the changes we want to add, by the way, is adding hover pop-ups to these things so people can understand better what they do. Maybe also hover menus, but I might leave that until we can get a better version of Sublime as a default background, because I don't want to have that and context menus and try to juggle between the two. But in any case, if I diff this override, well, actually, I could probably do this, delete that override. Do I still have it open somewhere? Let's edit it first so we can come back and get it. And then maybe we might also close a large number of things that we're pretty sure we're not necessarily caring about for the time being. Whatever state I thought this thing was in 2 years ago, I probably don't remember for right now. Okay, so we're going to head and delete that override. Yeah, you go ahead and delete that. Now that file is unsafe because the file on disk is gone. That did not do what I might have liked. So I think what I actually need to do is bulk diff Lua. I might even be doing this wrong. It might be an override report that does that and not this. But I think it is this one. So if I now come over here and delete that. If I refresh this, it explicitly knows it's diffing overrides in Lua. It says that, and does it think it's a file? It does. It thinks it's a file name because of that bug. So that is something that can also be backported. And this is the part where this gets a little crunko. Let's go ahead and see. Add this to the changelog. Like so. Now I had 2 lines there. Yeah. So we got the changelog entry in. I'm going to move this over to this other monitor where you guys can't see it, but I can. And the window just got ridiculously bigger. And now the font looks so tiny. So tiny. Okay, so what do we want to search for here? We want to search for the text no for no simple overrides found. That appears, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 places, as one might have expected. So we can do this. Whoa. Change that one and that one. Whoops. And that one and that one. Those were 2 of them. The others are here and here and here and here. And let's see. Oh, I got to fix the syntax too. But first, we'll change this, and it should look like this now, so that there is no simple overrides found. And text override audit minus entity name to make sure that that one is definitely not a file name. Oh, but it also does not line up for beans. There should be 4 spaces there. Is there 4 spaces there? 1, 2, 3. No. 4. Yeah, see, the syntax currently thinks that that is a file name. So if we ran the syntax test, it would fail. But if we also went to, let's save that. That's looking okay. We want the syntax, and specifically we want the OADiff.sublime syntax. It's that one there. And the, was that line 25? The line that looks like the start of a new line and then 4 spaces and then /s dot star should have, instead of that, it should have this. So just to check, this one I don't care about. It served its purpose. And here we can see it says that text in square brackets, and it thinks it's a file. And if I file save all, I don't normally do that one. Yeah, I was not expecting that to happen. I did not do that. Okay, fine. If I do this, and then I reload the file, now it's swapped to that, and it's no longer considered a file. I probably should have done maybe that part first, but okay, so that is that. And we also, I believe, need to, all of the tests passed. So if that was the case, we could do some stuff here. So I'm going to copy that, bring this back. We can all see it again. So I'm going to copy that message. So what did we change? We added an entry to the change log. We modified 4 of those to be there and a couple more here. We turned anything that's not white space into a square bracket, or sorry, anything that's not left a less than sign followed by white space, and we changed that one and fixed the length of things. It's 4 and 4 and has that new stuff there. So if I stage, yeah, we did that. We can stage that. And here we can stage that. Those are the changes we made. And let's go ahead and unstage that for a second. Were there multiple hunks there? Yeah, there were. Okay. Just making sure the /s and anything that's not white space became anything that's not a left thing and a white space, and that changed, that got shorter. We can stage that, we can stage that, and we can paste this and commit 4 files like so, and I still have that. That's some good action right there. Now let's go ahead and check out master here. And we will jump into the changelog and remove these 2 things because they are now part of the legacy branch, so they don't need to be reported here. And we'll save that. And there's one more we can do. We can come back and merge that in here as well. So we'll just go up here and do that and say remove some backported fixes from the changelog. Some fixes that were originally made in the version 2.0.0 branch as a part of the BSR have been backported to override audit version 1 point whatever. Have them backported. Sorry, we'll just say to the legacy branch where they have been added to the changelog and how do we want to say this? Some fixes that were originally made in the version 2 branch as a part of the BSR have been backported to the legacy branch where they have been added to the changelog and will be a part of the next release. As such, these changes no longer need to be in the changelog here, since that would look a little weird and wrong. Okay, now let's check out the legacy. Oh, you know what? No. Okay, what did I just? Yeah, I guess I do gotta jump back to legacy for just a moment. We'll check out legacy and. Oh no, sorry. No, did I have the right one there? Improve detection of packages that are dependencies. Yeah. Did I do that in a way that I can easily remember? How? I did it. I guess it would be this one. Again, I'm on the legacy branch. That's the master branch. So I'm going to bring that over here. And we are going to one last thing here. Improve detection of packages that are dependency packages that are still under development so they appear as appropriate in package reports. Save that. And before we can fully implement this, we probably... Now this stuff happens around about line 327 in add path. If a path is a directory, then it's an unpacked path. Metadata is if there's a dependency.metadata file there. So we actually changed that a little bit like so. Now before we actually blap this in here, here's what this is all about. I'm going to close find for it. We're done with the syntax now. We don't need that. I might actually clean that up. We can definitely get rid of that. Packages.py, that's the thing we're currently looking at. This is the entire encapsulation of, and I've totally, yeah. This is an encapsulate, this window, the snapping is very sensitive. Okay, fine, you can be full up. This whole thing is the entire code for detecting all overrides and all package files. And essentially it scans the packages folder, the installed packages folder, and the shipped packages folder to find all the Sublime package files. It also scans the entirety of the packages. Sorry, it scans the packages folder for loose files and the installed packages and shipped packages files for Sublime package files and collates all that information. And it does that specifically instead of just asking Sublime for resources, which you can see with like view package file, because of this. Down here we can see these things are things that are considered disabled by Sublime. Now, we know that because we can see them in the list of ignored packages. When Sublime ignores a package, it hides all of the resources, but we want to be able to still see those resources. Now, in particular, the thing we want to do here is detect that this hyperhelp package, this hyperhelp folder, for in this example, is a dependency. And there's a couple of things that makes a file a dependency. So I'm going to open a terminal here. And maybe if I can line that up, if we go to the package folder, and if we look, say, inside of markup safe, there's this file called dependency metadata.json. And if you cat that, we can see it's got some JSON data in here. And it says what versions of Sublime it's for, where it's for, where it's from, all that kind of stuff. This is a file that package control inserts into this folder when it installs the dependency. And OverrideAudit in this code here, we can see if that file exists, it assumes that this particular thing is a dependency instead of a regular package, if you will, which is what hyperhelp is detected as right now. Now, while you are developing a dependency, and for our purposes, we could pretend hyperhelp, it's going to be a dependency eventually, it's just not right now. But see, I have it extracted in my folder here because I'm working on it. And what you could actually do here is touch a file named .sublime-dependency. And by doing that, it tells package control that this is a dependency. Now, actually, this file, if I remember correctly, should have like a number in it that's the load order, so package control knows how to handle it. And what you would do is while you're developing a dependency, before it's actually in a place where some package control can pull it down and install it, which it does by like downloading the release zip file and extracting it and putting it here and adding that dependency metadata, which is information that it gets from the channel file. As far as I remember anyway. It has been a while. You can go ahead and create this Sublime dependency file here, and then if you do package control satisfy dependencies, it'll notice that there and use that as the dependency instead of trying to download it. But as we can see, package control, or sorry, OverrideAudit is not smart enough to know that that file is doing something. But that is as simple as changing these lines to look like this. And I'm just going to copy those from there because I've already written it once. I trust myself. So the development version of metadata is the same thing, only the file is slightly different. And if that exists, we do something special. And I'm going to go ahead and, well, we'll leave that there so we can clean that up. But if I come back to this OverrideAudit package report, we can see that that did not work. That's, is there a problem with that code? Did it actually reload? No, it didn't. Oh, right. Haha. Oh, okay. We got to do this after we do that. And how about now? There we go. This packages.py is in this lib folder, so Sublime doesn't automatically reload it. So once you save it, you have to come over and make this file try to reload that file. And there we go. We can see hyperhelp is now considered to be a dependency because of that change we made. So let's go ahead and remove that before something terrible happens and exit out of there. And now if I refresh, it's back to behaving as per normal. And as such, whoops, we can bring this back over here and take all of this and copy it. And So there's a changelog entry and those simple changes right there. And if we look up here, there's the changelog. There's those simple changes right there. Does that diff actually look the same as this? No, it doesn't. Huh, that's, oh yeah, that's right, it does, yeah. That part is all changed and then dev metadata is swapped for metadata, which is exactly what this one is doing. Okay. And it's added to the changelog, it's added to the code. So we could do that and commit those two files, then come back to the master branch and check out master and open this file in the editor and remove those lines and that line, and then come back to here, and I am on master. I can stage that and amend the previous commit. So it swaps places. And so now the master branch, which is one ahead of where it used to be in the origins, the only change is the changelog has changed. But here, the legacy branch, if well, there isn't a, there's a remote legacy, right? Yeah, I imagine. Check out the branch for, oh no, chib. Check out branch legacy. Thank you. That's that one. And origin legacy. Now I guess the real question is if this is where origin legacy is. Okay, then the very next fix is that one which backports save on diff, and that one which backports that change, and that one which backports that change. So realistically, we're actually kind of ready right now to roll out a version 1.1.2 of the package if we wanted to do so. That's kind of interesting. Seems like the in and hip and happening thing to do to update your packages lately. A lot of my packages have been updating. What kind of time we got here? Could actually, is it interesting to anybody to see how a package release is put together? I don't know. The hard part about that is getting it in package control, and we've already done that part. So this other part is fairly simplistic. I do have a record up here. readme.txt, merge to stable, changelog, tag, messages JSON. Boy, there's a lot of steps there. I'd hate for those to go awry. Maybe that's more interesting than trying to remember all of the other stuff that I wanted to do. What the hell? I'm on the legacy branch, so everything needs to be ready to release before we do anything. Just to explain why I have these windows open so I can close them, I suppose. This is the documentation for Submerge because I do want to add, before I go to version 2, I do want to add this external diff functionality. And in particular, I want that because it's a feature that I think should have been in a while back, but it didn't really have the time to do it and things got out of the way. But as we saw, if you watch the last stream, it's something that very much is handy, still needs a little bit of work. So if we could execute an external diff tool, that'd be good to do before we basically abandon this version. And it's really only abandoned for people that want to use a really old Sublime. We make sure they have one last round of bug fixes and features added. But one thing we can do or something that I investigated in the past and it did not quite work properly, but there have been more releases of Sublimerge since then. If you're not familiar with Sublimerge, it is a Sublime Text package for diffing things. And I think I'd actually need a file that was different in order to. Why is this still? Yeah. Oh. There's another little issue there for you. Those labels don't update nearly as much as they should. Um, I can compare this file to a snapshot at the point where I originally opened it. I'm imagining it probably looks the same. Oh, I guess not. Oh yeah, when this file was originally opened, it was the version from master, and now it's not. But as we can see, this is a diff tool that's more or less written in Python in Sublime, so it's in line. It uses gutter icons, so that doesn't look as good as it could, but we can see these lines were added, those lines were removed. It supports going back and forth. You can pick a thing and zoop individual lines over if you want to, and that sort of thing. So I'm going to close that without saving it. You can actually edit that diffed version of the file as well, and it applies it over. So um, there are some commands in here that we could use to implement external diffing by way of Sublimerge if Sublimerge happened to be installed. And I'm not sure exactly how that would work. If it would be a setting that you could use, external diff tool could be false if you don't have one, which is the default. It could be that stuff we worked on in the last stream where it's an exec record. It could maybe be the string sublimerge, which indicates that it should try to use sublimerge. And basically, this is a Sublime plugin, so it does have some commands. They're not actually documented in here, which is the reason I had this file open. I think you have to sort of look through. Now, when I tried this, which it was admittedly 2 years ago, it did not quite work. Now, the documentation for Sublimerge 2 has implementation of a command that does something there. Let's see if I look at this mail over here, that's correspondence, which is not on this screen, just to keep email addresses out of the hands of spammers. I talked to the actual developer of Sublimerge, and he said, because basically what I said was that I'm working on a package that assists in users and working with their package overrides, and I have simple diff functionality, which is nice for small things, but I'd like to add in support for external diffing, and in particular Sublimerge if the user has it installed. And Sublimerge version 2 had a Sublimerge diff command that does exactly what you want. It said what should be the content of the left, what should be the content of the right. Is one read only? Is the other read only? What are the titles of the views? And it did exactly everything you want. No such functionality was implemented in Sublimerge 3 at the time that that happened. So I sort of left that off because there was a way to do it, and he mentioned it here himself. You can use Sublimerge diff views, which takes a bunch of parameters and kind of does the right thing, but it kind of did not always work right because I don't think it was meant to be called that way. So that's something to investigate. And I did have this documentation open to see, and I found the email related to that. But I don't know that that's necessarily something I want to work on now because it's going to take a lot of investigation. But what are the moving parts in creating a release? Now, the first thing to check is, am I on the legacy branch? Yes, I am. So my changes are on legacy. I would have thought that I'm 3 ahead, except that I might not have set that to be a tracking branch. I guess I kind of would have thought that it probably was. The next version will be 1.1.2. So the first thing we want to do is, okay, well, my little thing here says README. Now, is there anything in here that specifically refers to version information? I don't think so. It does have a lot of documentation. Packed packages. Oh, actually, there was another feature that I wanted to add. Let's change this to 2019. And actually just look for 2017. Those ones are okay. Is this actually how you do that? I assume so. I mean, what do I know? I'm just a stupid developer, right? Those can stay the way they are in the messages file. That is definitely kosher. So all we really changed there is updating copyright dates. So let's say that's good enough for that part. Yeah. Well, we want to do that anyway, I think, regardless of anything else. So let's go ahead and bump the license dates to be more recent. Replaces all instances of the year 2017 in reference to non-changelog or syntax test related places. To be the most recent year so that things are more up to date. And we can stage both of those files. We'll stage that one and we'll stage that one. We're not going to track that one. We're going to commit to files. So there's that. Now, the other thing that I wanted to do, let's go ahead and close that. I don't know what the best way to do this is, and I don't remember what this menu actually looks like, what the best way to. I'd like to support info for GitGutter. What does that do? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's less interesting for what I was thinking of. There's a README, which I also have. Package dev documentation. And it opens in a browser. That looks like what I want. So, package dev main menu. It's going to be that one. And package dev caption documentation open URL. We're going to steal this one because it seems like it's the way to go. It's the first child under that, so we might get our own main.sublime menu. You'll notice my indent is crazy. The first child would be this one. Whoa, that's not how to do that, my friends. The caption is documentation. That's the command, that's the args, and the documentation that we're interested in here. And note that this is a GitHub wiki, but I have an OdatNurd.net / OverrideAudit / docs page, which takes you to this bad boy that I created myself. And oh, look, that's totally out of date. One of the reasons, oh, that should be HTTPS, excuse me. One of the reasons that I've kind of slowed down on doing that BSR for override audit and having to do stuff is I got to rewrite this documentation. Another reason was that some of the things I want to do is include inline help, and then I started working on hyperhelp and went all crazy, if you will. So I'm going to edit this, but I'll do that after the stream. We're going to copy that, and we're going to jump on over into here. Change this to fix that up nicely. Well, actually, if we wanted it to look like everything else, it would look like this, wouldn't it? And there. Now he doesn't have a README there. Now here's the thing. Preferences, package settings, override audit, documentation. For some reason, oh, look how broken that is now. That wasn't, oh, right. No, that should not be. There's a bug in there. Oh, I should fix that too. That's irritating as all get out, I would imagine. That's me doing that. Save that again. Preferences, package settings. Why is it doing that? That's interesting. I don't think that should be the case. But let's go ahead and let's just quit and restart. That is the one of my user package. Yeah, so that's okay. Package setting come on, mouse. There we go. I'm not sure what happened there. I am running a dev build, so things might be a little bizarro world. One thing you can do is pick this, and then you get to see the README, which tells you how to install this is basically what you see on the package control page, and it has usage information, the package report, all of that stuff. Now, I don't think that's technically needed anymore because, again, a person could do this and actually just see the documentation in their browser. And this documentation has the exact same information as the README has. So I would say for our purposes, we might replace that with this. And there's a view documentation that I should probably also add. So now if I did preferences, package settings, override audit, there's documentation, there's settings, there's that. That part seems to be okay. And I don't care about my README, and I don't, yeah, okay. I don't really care about that syntax currently. And I don't think I care about the code at the moment or this package that I had available there. But what I do want to do is package dev Sublime commands. Yeah, because it has a view documentation. Again, we will copy that, and I named it. Oh, I don't want that one open anymore. Default.sublime commands. It doesn't actually need to be named default. Look, I'm not getting cool syntax here either. Set syn package dev might have some issues. We don't want, let's say we don't want view readme. We want, well, we'll add this one first, shall we? And again, we want to, nope, that's not the way to do that, my friends. That's the way to do that. I'm amazed when I remember how to do that. And override audit view documentation, open URL, and the URL to open is going to be that. We don't need that. And that is the URL, as we used to say for that. So I can do a little bit of that. And now when I do the override audit thing, view documentation exists, view readme still exists, but let's take that one out. There we go. So there's some view documentation, and when you pick it, it opens in your browser. Go ahead and close that. Ooh, so instead of README, it's documentation. Instead of open file, it's open URL. And oh, did I? Oh, yeah. The new version has something that it doesn't need to have there, or does it? In the main.sublime menu. Oh, is it editing it somewhere else? Yes, yes, it is. I already had a version of that open. That is, uh-oh, hope I edited the right one. I'm really kind of confused why default.sublime commands doesn't get the appropriate syntax. Package control. Upgrade package. Anything? That's less interesting. Main.sublime menu. Yeah, we don't need none of that business. So preferences, package settings. Oh, this mouse is twitchy. That's looking like something nice, and that looks fairly clean. That's HTTPS. That's HTTPS. And let's also jump into the changelog and say, whoops, include links to the documentation. Oh, yeah. To the online documentation in the settings menu and the command palette. Instead, oh, and I'm doing this in legacy, so this is one I'm going to have to forward port. Oh, it's already a pain in the old rumpadoodle-doo. Well, what can you do? Include links to the online documentation in the settings menu and in the command palette instead of opening the README file since the form since they contain the same information, but one is hyperlinked and laid out better than the other one. There we go. Now, what do we got here? Changes to the default.sublime commands in the main.sublime menu. Everything else is just in here. So let's stage that. Let's stage that. Let's stage that. And say swap opening a README file for using the online doc. This completes the change that could have been done a ways back when the final official version of the online documentation was completed, and swaps the command palette and main menu entries for opening the README file from the package for commands that open the documentation in the user's browser instead. In some future build, this can be swapped for online for in Sublime help via And with those 3 files changed and that committed, we're going to stage that. Now I'm going to also rename this file to OverrideAudit.Sublime Commands instead of that one. And it should still work just fine, but it looks nicer. It's the only one of these that is named wrong-ish, if you will. If I did, those need to be that in order to be seen as far as I recall. But we'll come back over here and say, let's go ahead and stage OverrideAudit.Sublime Commands, and let's stage the deletion of default.Sublime Commands. So that's just a rename, and we will amend, the previous commit, like so. So there's that little bit now. Looks okay. And again, that was the main.sublime menu and the other one. So if I did this again, whoops, not that one, this one, and I copied OverrideAudit.Sublime commands and main.sublime menu to my home directory, and then came back over to here and checked out the branch for master, and then I move, whoa, doggy. That is not what I expected to have happen there. Terminus doesn't support control backspace. If I moved home OverrideAudit.Sublime commands to here and RM'd default.Sublime commands and moved home.main menu to here, you see those files changed, those files changed. And if I came over to here, okay. This hunk needs to be just. Wait a second. Okay, let's add that one and stage that one. Now it's not really being treated as a rename per se, which is unfortunate, but we can always back that out when it goes horribly wrong in just a minute. Wait a minute, this is the working directory version had this. So this needs to still be here, I would imagine, because in the new version it says documentation there instead of README. And here, then that should still be here because we still, I assume, I think that's something that we added. Yeah, so let's go ahead and discard that hunk, because all we really meant to do was change in the main menu, change the README for a documentation, and here the contents are wholly different for no readily explicable reason per se, except that I imagine if I did it in 2, maybe that would have worked better. Because it seems to have known here. We'll see what it looks like when I tweak it in just a second. But that's checked in. Okay, so we're stage main.sublime menu as well. So again, I'm not sure if that's a vagary of merge telling me that way, or if it's something funky going on. I can undo it. I have the power to unbreak my code. Port the menu and command palette fixes from legacy. Port menu and command palette fixes from legacy. In the forthcoming legacy branch, forthcoming legacy release, the menu entries for displaying the README were swapped for displaying the main online documentation in the browser instead. So those changes have been pulled forward. And commit those files. Commit them like you've never commit them before. Let's see what it looks like. It really, really, can I undo that commit? How bad does that work? Undo that commit. Let's see what happens. Okay. We're going to, that file is untracked. That file was deleted. So I can't rename that, can I? I can do it over here. I can override audit.sublime commands to default.sublime commands instead. And when we look over here in unstaged files in master, readme, file. That's okay. Oh, that's why that happened. Ah, well, boy, I'm glad I caught that. That did not, that would not have gone well. That's still that. We want to stage the menu. Yes, we do. And we want to stage that, but we want to discard this hunk because all the command names changed as part of the BSR. So we're going to discard that hunk. And now we just end up with that. That explains that. I thought that was a little weird. So now the only change is that and that. So if I, again, came over here, our two files are readme, and documentation instead of that. So if I come back to here, that's the readme version. Okay. Do that, and those two files are staged. We'll paste this. Port the swap of readme / online from legacy. This is the change that was ported forward from the legacy branch. And let's go ahead and commit two files. So just to see the master version, what changed between there and origin master? Some entries from the changelog went away because those are fixed somewhere else. README is swapped for documentation, and README is swapped for documentation. Nice. And here we have the legacy version looking pretty good. And, well, we could go ahead and push these changes out, I guess. I don't know how close we can get to doing that here, but if you haven't actually released a package before, the hard part, as I said, is getting it into package control. And really the hard part there are only so many volunteers to vet additions to the channel. One of the things that makes the Sublime Text package ecosystem so nice is not just any package can get in. There is some vetting to make sure there aren't a lot of duplicates and that poorly written packages don't get into the system. The downside to that is the changes to the channel stack up as pull requests on the channel file awaiting human intervention to do that testing, and there's not enough volunteers for that, and sometimes the packages come in very quickly and it takes a little while, but it's a good result in the end. So yeah, we don't need that part anymore, do we? It might behoove me to actually just verify that this still, seems to do something. We are on the master branch, which is the massive internal refactor, and I can still get overrides. So that's working from the command palette, which is the important thing. We can view documentation in there, which is opened up in a browser window over there, but nevertheless, that seems to be nice-ish. So that seems to still be working the way we want. So in order to finish this, we actually need to be in the legacy branch, like so, which again, for some reason, doesn't track that it's ahead. And I don't know why. But that's neither here nor there. I don't know if I ever actually intended to develop anything on it when I created the branch, if we want to get specific about it. So the first thing we want to do, there was that README file, which pointed out that we wanted to do the documentation. Nothing else happens to happen in the README file. The next thing is the changelog. That's this one, and this one should be today, which is 2019-01. 21, fix a bug and save on diff handling whereby the buffer might visually appear unsaved in some circumstances even though the file was actually saved. Fix a bug introduced on 1.1.1 while fixing number 24, which caused text in reports telling you that there are no overrides to be treated as an override. And improve detection of packages that are dependency packages that are still under development so they appear as appropriate in the package reports, and include links to online documentation in the settings menu and in the command palette instead of opening the README file, since they contain the same information, but one is hyperlinked and laid out better than the other one. Now, that's good. That's the version that we want for that. It's not next version, though. It's version 1.1.2. So we'll go ahead and do a little bit of that. The video that's an introduction to this thing now is slightly out of date, but one of the things on my list is creating new videos. So that's probably not a problem. So now the changelog has been updated. Next, the messages.json file. That's this one. And we'll copy that line, make sure this is definitely valid. This is 1.1.2, and this is 1.1.2. Now, we're going to have to bring that back, I think, and zoop that. There needs to be, if I was to open 1.1.1, I need to save as this as 1.1.2. Like so, and do that. Oh, there should be a space there so that it's consistent with all the other ones. Thusly, now we need to quit that, close that, and reopen it so we can see. Yeah, a little vagary of git gutter. So what's the purpose of this? This messages.json file is something that package control will consult when it installs a package. This is the thing that controls those little message notes popping up when your package installs to let you know what was changed. And I don't know if it's necessary really to do this. I personally like the idea of being told when changes happen. So let's spell check this thing. Online and hyperlinked. Okay, is that a... We're going to say that in our wackaday world, that is okay. And there's the messages.json file. So if we came over here, now I'm sure I'm probably forgetting something. We might stage this, changelog entry, stage that. There are two untracked files. We need to stage that as well. So how it works is something like this. We need the version of the code. We need a tag is what we need. And package control examines the tag. When it sees a newer version than what you have, it tries to upgrade you, which it does by ignoring the package, downloading it, and then updating it, and then unignoring it, if you will. Um, Part of that is if there's an entry in the messages.json for the version that you have, it will display that in that little package control update window, and everything else just sort of automatically works the way you want. Now, for my own process, what we want here is prepare for release of version 1.1.2. This is an interim point release while we work some more on the external diff functionality that will be in the next version in preparation for our abandonment of the 1.x versions in favor of the new 1.2.x BSR version of the code. And we're going to do that and commit those 3 files. Next, the legacy branch is supposed to track the last legacy version. The stable branch is supposed to track the version of the code that is the current stable version. So I believe I want to check out branch stable, and I want to merge branch legacy into stable. Merge 6 commits from legacy into stable. I'm going to create that as a, let's see, no commit, stage merge, but don't commit it. Don't want that. I really love this new merge dialog, by the way. It runs the git command, git merge legacy. Fast forward merge, no merge commits will be created. So I actually want there to be no fast forward in this case. Fast forward merge disabled, a merge commit will be created. This is something I didn't used to do, but I personally like the way it works, at least for right now. And we'll see how busy and awful things get. Maybe I want to do that just for version 2. Let's gosh, I don't know. Jimmy stalling out so hard on how exactly we might want to pull that off, huh? Let's throw a merge on that. Okay, so merge branch legacy into stable, and we can actually see the few changes that happened there. Yeah, that was probably a mistake. Stable is now 7 ahead. I wonder if I should not have done that. I can't undo that particular one though, huh? Where's the legacy branch, might I ask? How do I check out branch legacy? That's interesting. I'm gonna say maybe that's kind of busy for right now. Where was this is where it used to be, right? Origin stable was here before I fiddled stuff. What did I actually change? Oh, I actually should have said release version. Okay, so you know what? Let's go ahead and say reset legacy to this commit. Oh, no, we don't want to do that, do we? We want the stable branch to go back. Ooh, that was a close call. Well, you know, maybe I will leave this for the time being. Now, I really need them to be banged with each other, I think, is the magic there. So I think I want to check out, and there's probably a better way to do this, check out branch stable, which is that one. Come back to here where origin stable is and say reset stable to this commit. All local changes are discarded. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the legacy code is still in that other branch. And now I can, in the stable branch, I can merge branch legacy into stable, and we'll leave that the way it is, I think, and go like so. Now, stable and legacy are both up here, and we should probably say release version 1.1.2. This includes a fix for the save on diff functionality. Let's see. Repairs regression in the syntax added in version 1.1.0 and includes and replaces the menu and command palette entries for There's a potential problem here if people had default .sublime commands override in their OverrideAudit package, and I changed it, but that's okay though. This includes a fix for the save on diff functionality, repairs a regression in the syntax added in version 1.1.0, and replaces the menu and command palette entries that used to display the README file for new ones that open the online documentation in the user's browser. This is an interim point release. Okay, we'll go ahead and save that bad boy. And what the balls happened here? Aw, man! I'm unstable, that's 6 ahead. What if I just set the legacy to this one? This one and this one are identical, right? All right, so let's go ahead and just, reset. No. Check out branch legacy. And there we go. So the master version is the version 2.0, which is still something that we don't care that we're not released at the current time, but it does have those changes in it. If we compare that to that, that looks like what we expect. If we compare this legacy stable up here to origin legacy stable down here, we can see the things that we included bugs for. Oh, we forgot to mention that as well, but that's okay. We modified that. We changed that. The 27s become 2018. There's the messages. There's version 1.1.2. This is, I guess, version 1. This is tagged as 1.1.1. So what we need to do is push origin back to GitHub. Or sorry, push the legacy to GitHub. I'm going to leave my origin branches, which are for my local version here, while I make sure everything's cool. And we should push modified master. So we should push master to GitHub master. Like so. And we should push stable to GitHub stable. Ooh. Why are there changes in the stable branch that I don't have? I don't remember that. Oh, man. That went off the rails, dude. At this point, I'm considering it somewhat ironic that I was working on documentation for teaching other people how to use Git. Checkout branch stable. Let's go ahead and pull down. Oh, right, because it's pulling from the wrong place. That's why. I think I have to do that over here. Git pull GitHub stable. Something may have gone a little doolally there. That's the. Why did that do that? Oh, let's see. Push stable to GitHub stable. You know, I would have thought that that might actually do some stuff. Stable and GitHub stable. Legacy. Now, why are these? Are these both the same? No. Oh, that's. Oh, right. Now I remember. My good pal King Keith implemented a fix here because he was working on something that required that to be changed. Well, the general thing here is all we have to do is tag a release of version 1.1.2 and should be okay to release. So maybe, here's the one right here. There was a pull request. This history is starting to get crazy, man. Legacy and stable have diverged. So does stable have that and this doesn't? That is the question. Override report dot sublime syntax. So if I looked at this one and looked in syntax over, oh, I should actually first have, is it say what the version, the line number is? 11. If I looked in the stable code at the tree in the syntax for this at line 11, this one has it. Keith Hall, touched line 11 there, and here it doesn't have it. So I need to merge legacy back into stable. Still, oh, it's tracking origin. Oh, okay. Merge branch legacy into stable, or I merge stable into legacy, I suppose is what I want to do, isn't it? Checkout branch legacy and merge branch stable into legacy, which should give us that one change. Merge that bad boy. So now, where did the origin, legacy, origin, stable? There's legacy. Where's the stable, yo? This thing might not be updating as much as I think it was, or I don't know what I'm doing. Either one of those is possible. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead because my back is starting to hurt and the stream has hit its 2 hours. So I'm going to work on this a little bit more and clean this up. And we're going to see a release of OverrideAudit version 1.1.2 while I try to figure out what's going on here. And yeah, that is weird. Anyway, before we close out the stream, I'd like to thank you for watching and subscribing to the videos. I am working on creating the scripts and information I need for my package development course, which is going to be on the other channel. I'm about a third of the way through writing scripts and information. This is a very big project. I'm trying to fill all of the information in, or as much as I possibly can before I start, to make sure that I've got everything that a package developer might need in there, and so that I can know when I can reference forward and back. There's some wiggle room in this video numbering scheme to inject other videos. And we are going back to regular Sunday live streams, and I'm going to actually remember to schedule the next one and talk about it on Twitter to perhaps entice people to join in and watch me be absolutely gobsmacked about how bizarrely weird my GitHub history has become. Until then, thank you for watching. Remember to like videos if you like them, subscribe if you want to see more. I got 2 channels, links in the description. And if you have any questions on anything, including why I think I know how to use Git when clearly I don't know what the hell is going on, leave those in the comment section below. Hit me on Twitter at OdatNurd or go to OdatNurd.net. You can probably get there by waiting until the next OverrideAudit release, which will be momentarily once I get this problem sorted out, and then install that package and view the documentation, and you can follow the links backwards. Until then, have a sublime day.